The top stories tonight in Y News. Valenzuela City officially ends the toll holiday today as it lifts the business permit suspension of NLEX Corporation.
President Rodrigo Duterte and his cabinet approves additional funding to register 20 million more Filipinos in the Philippine Identification System.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque III refutes dropping the ball on the deal to buy 10 million doses of vaccine from Pfizer BioNTech. Over 1,000 schools from different regions nationwide have been nominated for the planned face-to-face classes next month.
The World Health Organization assembles a team of experts to find the source of the coronavirus.
And scientists had launched a mission to investigate the world's biggest iceberg as it drifts towards South Georgia Island. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, December 16, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide with the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, motorists will have to pay toll again when passing by the North Luzon Expressway or NLEX in Valenzuela City as the local government ordered an end to the toll holiday. Joan Nano will tell us why.
Following series of discussions, Valenzuela City Mayor Rex Gatchalian officially lifted its suspension on NLEX Corporation, signaling the end of the toll holiday. This as the toll operator granted Mayor Gatchalian's proposal to lift the barriers in RFID lanes for a faster movement of vehicles and to avoid buildup of traffic. Both parties have agreed upon to lift the barriers every day from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. However, barriers will be put down from 10:01 p.m. up to 4:59 a.m. According to NLEX, it is part of their safety measure to place the barriers down at late night in order to prevent accidents to happen, wherein during this period, huge and overloaded trucks and sometimes drunk driver might be entering the expressway. Apart from the barriers, NLEX also vows to comply with Mayor Gatchalian's deadline to upgrade their account management for RFID system by January 30, 2021. With this, problems with unauthorized deduction or missing load, late credit of load, incidents of alleged ghost rider, as well as inability of scanners to read RFID stickers will be addressed and prevented.
Satisfied ako hindi sa prininsentan nila. Kung hindi, satisfied ako na tinanggap nila yung suwestyon ng lokal na pamahalaan. And evidence will show, mabilis ang biyahe, pero nakakakolekta sila. So for me, a win-win solution like this is always good for the greater public.
With these interventions, Mayor Gatchalian finally decides to lift NLEX business permit suspension, allowing them to resume toll collection. The local chief executive reiterates that resolving the issue is not only for his constituents in Valenzuela City, but also for the welfare of other consumers. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Several government agencies conducted rounds and random checks at some transport terminals in Metro Manila ahead of the possible influx of passengers this holiday season. Asher Cadapan Jr. will tell us more details live. Yes, Asher?
Harleen, the Philippine National Police Highway Patrol Group, or PNP-HPG, conducted inspections in several public utility vehicle terminals and loading and unloading stations across Metro Manila today to make sure that health and safety protocols against COVID-19 in PUV are well observed. This as influx of commuters and mall goers become more and more apparent as authorities anticipate more commuters to travel towards the holiday season. Let's hear it from PNP-HPG Director Police Brigadier General Alexander Tagum.
We expect the marami po mga Christmas rush or mga Christmas shoppers at mga uuwi po sa mga probinsya, mas kailangan po paigtingin namin ang aming pagbabantay at pagkandak ng inspeksyon.
Upon inspection of HPG, hand in hand with the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, the traffic law enforcers were concerned about the neglect in the observance of the social distancing protocol in some PUVs. Authorities noticed that the plastic barriers inside some PUVs have a very minimal space between them, not enough for larger built individuals. Although some passengers don't mind the risk of COVID-19 pandemic even in such conditions.
Sa akin sir, ayos lang naman kasi naka-face shield naman po kami, naka-face mask.
But based on the memorandum circular of the LTFRB recently updated in October, there should be a seat apart between passengers inside PUVs. Otherwise, a plastic barrier should be installed so passengers may be allowed to sit beside each other.
Lahat po ng mga guidelines na pertaining to health protocol, lahat po yan ay terms and conditions ng kanilang franchise during operation. So if they deliberately violating those, pwede po silang humarap sa mga kaso na pwedeng ipato po ng LTFRB with regards to their franchise.
Arlene, the authorities remind the public and personnel of public utility vehicles to take the precautionary measures seriously to avoid further transmission of COVID-19. Arlene?
Thank you so much, Asher Cadapan Jr. reporting live.
Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte has approved additional funding to register millions of Filipinos in the Philippine Identification System. Rosalie Cos explains why.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque reveals that the government targets to register another 20 million Filipinos to the Philippine Identification System or PhilSys before 2020 ends. This is on top of the 50 million target. Thus, President Rodrigo Duterte and his cabinet approved the 3.52 billion pesos additional budget. The PSA leads the implementation of the Philippine Identification System with support from the National Economic Development Authority or NEDA and various government agencies. NEDA reports that there are 8.7 million Filipinos who have completed the Step 1 registration for the national ID. Meanwhile, Socio-Economic Planning Acting Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua hopes before 2020 ends, around 10 million Filipinos will be pre-registered. PhilSys will be able to help millions of Filipinos to finally open their bank accounts.
The first use case or benefit of the national ID is you will have an ID to open a bank account to be financially included so that next time if we have a need to distribute subsidies, we can direct it to your bank account. And we are hoping by end of next year, all 18 or 20 million low-income families will have a bank account. That will be a major accomplishment.
In 2021, PSA will start the Step 2 of the PhilSys registration, in which supporting documents will be validated and biometric information will be captured at registration centers. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III denied that someone in the government botched its supposed high-level talks that would have secured the Philippines some 10 million doses of Pfizer's possible COVID-19 vaccine. Aiko Miguel explains why.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin Jr. tweeted on Tuesday that 10 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines made by Pfizer and BioNTech are supposed to be delivered in the country by January 2021. Secretary Locsin says this is the result of he and Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Romualdez's negotiation with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. But according to Locsin, the plans were foiled because someone dropped the ball. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque had no idea whom Secretary Locsin was referring to and denies that the government failed to secure a deal for the supply of the said vaccine.
Pero ang alam ko po, maaga pa nakipag-negotiate na po si Secretary Locsin dahil naalala ko po yung meeting na yan, no? Pero maagang-maaga pa po in 2020, nakipag-negotiate na po si Secretary Locsin. Hindi lang nakipag-negotiate, nakipagkasundo pa na bibigyan tayo ng Amerika ng Pfizer.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque III denied that they made a mistake or missed the opportunity to secure COVID-19 vaccine, as mentioned by Secretary Locsin. According to Secretary Duque, negotiations with vaccine manufacturers are ongoing.
First of all, there is no such a thing as dropping of the ball, because if you look at the statement, no, the negotiations are ongoing, no. So tuloy-tuloy po ito, and the DOH went through the process of iteration. Ito po yung balik-balik na tinitingnan yung mga conditionalities na nakapaloob po sa CDA or Confidentiality Disclosure Agreement. And September 24 lang naabisuhan ang DOH ng Pfizer na sinasabi na ang utos ng Office of the Executive Secretary ay DOH na ang lalagda, hindi na ang Office of the Executive Secretary at hindi na rin ang DOST.
Secretary Duque adds the government signed a confidentiality disclosure agreement with Pfizer and BioNTech. The health chief also said Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. can give details on what stage the negotiations are with different vaccine manufacturers.
At tuloy-tuloy lang kami sa mga reviews, no, ng mga conditionalities, yung provisions, and I just wanted to make sure na hindi onerous or disadvantageous to government yung mga provisions. And so I had to refer this to our lawyers, the lawyers of DOST, the lawyers of the Executive Secretary, so that after September 24, on October 20, on the day that this was given to me, submitted to me, I signed it already. So there is no such a thing as somebody dropping the ball. It is really an ongoing negotiation.
The country has so far formally secured 2.6 million doses of vaccine from British drug maker AstraZeneca, which are expected to arrive in the second quarter of 2021. The deal was closed through a 600 million pesos donation from over 30 private companies. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A team of experts formed by the World Health Organization will be investigating medical data and samples from China in an effort to find the origins of the coronavirus. May Viandog will tell us why live. Maeve, go ahead.
Diego, the World Health Organization gathered a 10-person team who are expected to travel to China next month in order to sift through Chinese samples and determine the source of the pandemic. Comprised of public health experts and animal health specialists, the team is likely to begin their investigation in Wuhan, where the pandemic started, with the mission expected to last 4 to 5 weeks. Mr. Fabian Lindertz, a German biologist specializing in emerging diseases who will be part of the mission, said that they will examine the famous market in Wuhan, as it may be the first mega-spreading event or one of the first occasions where the virus could most likely have been transmitted from animal to human. Mr. Lindert states that the aim of the mission is to reconstruct the scenario and identify how the virus jumped from one animal to another, to a host, and then to human. The mission will involve the group tracking down animal species from which the virus emerged, including bats and other animals that might retain the virus. Scientists will also be investigating stored medical samples before the first known case to determine whether the virus has already been circulating earlier than originally thought. While the emergence of the virus sparked claims of political tensions, particularly between the United States administration and Donald Trump in Beijing, Mr. Lindert says that the ultimate goal of the mission is to gather data and identify countermeasures that can be taken to prevent possible future outbreaks. Diego?
Yes, Maeve, this mission seems to be promising for the WHO's team, but are there complications that the team might face in this mission? How will they tackle these?
Jego, a difficulty that the scientists might face, as we know, is that the virus can display a wide range of symptoms. Some could be similar to flu or other diseases, while some who have contracted the virus did not display any symptoms at all. But Mr. Lindert said they could make use of x-rays of COVID-19 patients from hospitals, which may provide them a hint. He also said that there will definitely be a report from this mission, but it might not give the full answer, therefore further research will likely be necessary. Back to you, Jego.
Thank you, Maeve Yandog, reporting live from Australia.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Following the mandatory wearing of face shield as ordered by the Interagency Task Force, some vendors of face shields in Manila have yet to feel its significant impact. Meanwhile, some of our kababayans have different views on the newest policy of the government. Harleen Delgado tells us why.
Filipinos are now required to wear a full coverage face shield when going outdoors after Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases ordered its mandatory use in public spaces. Following the directive, the UNTV News went to Bambang, Manila to check the prices of face shields and its demand. Some sellers and medical supply stores say they have yet to feel its effect, while others have opted not to sell face shields after it became widely available in the market.
Wala pang masyadong bumibili dahil sa kaka-announce lang kagabi. Hindi ko alam sa mga susunod na araw kung magpupuntahan na yung mga dati naming customer. Wala namang pagbabago sa presyo, yun pa rin. Wala pa namang ganun panic buying.
But for some sidewalk vendors, the demand has started to pick up. Vendor Mary Gray says she noticed an increase in sales last month, adding that most of her buyers are LRT passengers who forgot their face shields at home.
Marami naman ngayon bumibili kasi medyo marami na rin lumalabas ngayon. Tapos yung iba, ginagawang giveaways.
Most of the prices of basic face shields made of clear acetate in Bambang ranges from 7 pesos to 35 pesos, still within the suggested retail price or SRP of 26 pesos to 50 pesos for a non-medical grade face shield that was set by the Department of Trade and Industry last August. However, those face shields that are made of acrylic are way more expensive, with prices from 150 pesos up to 300 pesos depending on the type and design. The UNTV News has tried to reach DTI for an interview regarding the new IATF measure, but it has yet to respond. Meanwhile, some Filipinos have different views on the mandatory use of face shields.
Pagsuot pa nga lang ng face mask, nahihirapan na kaming huminga. Paano pa kaya kapag nagsuot pa ng face shield? Lalo na kung may mga karga ka ng mga bagahe, mas lalong mahirap. Sa ibang bansa, actually, focus na sila ngayon sa vaccine. Tayo ngayon, dito sa Philippines, mas focus tayo sa pagsusuot ng face shield. Parang wala.
Pabor po ako dyan, anytime po. Kasi para lang po sa kaligtasan po natin lahat po.
Even na yung lalabas ka lang sa bahay na naka-face mask, face shield, okay na okay po sa akin. Kasi safety talaga.
Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippines logged 1,156 new coronavirus disease cases today, pushing the tally to 452,988. Based on the latest case update, most of the new infected people were in Davao City with 126, Quezon City with 66, Rizal with 64, Bulacan with 56, and the city of Manila with 38. It also showed that 425 more patients have been cleared of COVID-19, while 21 more have died. These caused the recovery tally to increase to 419,282 and 8,833 fatalities. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III said that the policy of wearing a face shield on top of a face mask when going to public places is an added protection against COVID-19.
The government is still in discussion if they will soon require all returning Filipinos and foreign nationals to have a COVID-19 vaccine shot before entering the country. Aiko Miguel explains why.
Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA Administrator Hans Leo Kakdak sees no conflict whether to make COVID-19 vaccination as a requirement or pass to let returning overseas Filipino workers enter the country. OWA Administrator Kakdak adds they will abide to whatever will be implemented in the country.
Itong mga medical protocols, medical requirements, usually we defer to the DOH and the IATF. So kung ano man po yung maitalaga ng IATF na patakaran tungkol sa vaccination of returning OFWs ay susunod po kami. We will abide by the IATF ruling.
But of course, if there would be additional policies for the other sectors of the population, katulad po ng OFWs, pag-usapan po yan sa IATF headed by our Secretary as it is the policy directing body for the COVID-19 response.
Currently, the protocol set in the country requires returning OFWs and foreign nationals to undergo COVID-19 testing and undergo quarantine while they are waiting for their COVID-19 result. The DOH, on the other hand, does not agree with other officials' recommendation to require COVID-19 immunity passport of overseas travelers before entering the country.
Number one, there is no such a thing as an immunity passport, no? So that is what it is, no? And again, our immunization list, priority list is what we will implement.
An immunity passport is used to prove that an individual has been vaccinated with and will be given freedom to travel and go to public places. The DOH insists that everyone should observe minimum public health standards implemented in the country. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA is looking to reopen more U-turn slots along EDSA on Friday. Joan Nano tells us why.
Following MMDA's meeting with the local government of Quezon City together with the House Committee of Metro Manila Development, they have agreed to reopen the U-turn slot in front of Quezon City Academy in order to ease traffic congestion and to shorten travel time of almost 30,000 motorists who are using the U-turn slot according to MMDA. Earlier today, the MMDA has started to remove some of the concrete barriers in the area in preparation for its target reopening on Friday, December 18.
So what we're going to do is we will stop the vehicles, yung mga U-turning vehicles, we will stop them and make priority for the buses to pass through. Then pag wala ng buses, go na ulit yung U-turns and then block them again pag daraan na yung bus.
Apart from this, the MMDA will also be opening an emergency lane near EDSA Dario Bridge. However, this will be exclusive only for ambulances and other emergency vehicles who will bring patients to Quezon City General Hospital. MMDA argues that they cannot allow the entry of private vehicles in that emergency slot as this will defeat the purpose of the EDSA busway in which the primary goal is to serve the commuting public.
Hindi naman namin pwedeng buksan para sa lahat ng private vehicles. Mabubulo na naman yung busway. So, case-to-case basis, paano kung hindi ambulance ang ginamit, kotse ang ginamit? Sabi nga namin, may enforcer naman dyan, siguro naman pag bumubula na yung bibig ng pasyente, hindi mo mapapasukin. Hindi naman ganun, di ba? So, sana hindi abusuhin.
Once again, the MMDA urged motorists for discipline and cooperation as they are doing all efforts to manage the traffic in major thoroughfares. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
As many people are going outside and traveling from place to place, a resolution was filed in the House of Representatives urging the government to increase the number of public utility vehicles plying the roads. Ray Pelayo explains why.
The House Committee on Transportation submitted its report and recommendations on how to address the problems in public transport. Based on House Resolution 1409, it urges the Department of Transportation to increase the number of roadworthy public utility vehicles to address the transportation shortage. Committee Chairperson Representative Edgar Sarmiento explained during the period of interpellation and debate earlier the resolution primarily for jeepneys. The lawmaker also noted that public utility vehicles can also operate in full capacity, subject that health protocols are strictly implemented. The increase in capacity will also help the economy to recover. He adds that operators are complaining for their loss incurred during the past months of the pandemic.
Sana naman kami nakikiusap, kung may barrier lang, pwede na po siguro na magkaroon na ng full capacity basta may plastic barriers lang. No?
Meanwhile, the committee also urged the DOTr through the House Resolution 1417 to defer the implementation of the cashless transaction in expressways to January next year. Sarmiento said that operators should address the issues floated during the previous implementation, such as heavy traffic. Speaker Alan Velasco previously urged the DOTr to move the full implementation of the cashless transaction to March 2021. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A new proposed relief package bill has been filed at the Senate. Senate President Pro Tempore Ralph Recto has filed Senate Bill number 1953, called the Bayanihan to Rebuild as one act, also known as Bayanihan 3, which aims to accelerate the economic recovery of the country from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic and the series of typhoons that battered several parts of the country. A 485 billion peso appropriation is proposed under the bill for various programs. These include 110 billion pesos for the purchase and handling of COVID-19 vaccines, hiring of contact tracers, and hazard pay for medical frontliners. Another 20 billion pesos for the assistance to families that have been severely affected by the recent typhoons, and 50 billion pesos for the rehabilitation of typhoon-hit communities. According to Recto, it is a counterpart measure of House Bill 8031 filed by Marikina Representative Stella Kimbo, which is pending at the committee level. In other news, the military and police forces remain on high alert even during the holidays to quell possible security threats posed by the communist rebels and other lawless elements. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP Central Committee, has announced today that they will not declare a holiday season truce due to the allegedly continuous violent attacks by the military and the police forces. The Armed Forces of the Philippines just used the NPA ceasefire declarations in the past to conduct offensive operations. The CPP has directed a new People's Army to protect the masses from allegedly attacks by the AFP. The group urges their central party committees, NPA units to conduct secret meetings and assemblies in connection with their 52nd anniversary on December 26 instead. CPP blames the Duterte administration for ignoring the appeals of ceasefire this long holiday season. Meanwhile, National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon Jr., on the other hand, says this is not a new method or tactics by the CPP. Esperon assures that both the military and the police personnel are ready for any threat or atrocity from the communist group.
Kung walang ceasefire pronouncement or declaration, talaga naka-red alert ang Armed Forces at saka Philippine National Police. Kung mayroon mang banta ang CPP and PA ay ano bang bago? Dati naman silang nandyan na, mayroong mga armas. Kaya we should be prepared for that. Kung meron silang gagawing kaguluhan ay nakahanda ang ating mga tropa.
President Rodrigo Duterte had recently said that he will no longer declare ceasefire with the NPA and enter into a peace talks with the communist group. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Education Secretary Leonor Briones clarified that the conduct of limited face-to-face classes during its scheduled pilot run next year will not be for all and will be highly selective based on stringent conditions. Dante Amento will tell us why.
Some 1,114 schools out of 61,000 public schools across the country were nominated by the Department of Education regional directors to participate for the pilot face-to-face classes next month. Most of them are in Regions 4A or Calabarzon and Region 8 or Eastern Visayas. But Education Secretary Leonor Briones says not all of the nominated schools may join the dry run because they still have to pass the evaluation.
The other regions nagbabari, pero ang final listing will be very much lesser than 1,114 considering na may ibang factor tayong tinitingnan, kinoconsider.
Meanwhile, schools in Davao Region, Cotabato and National Capital Region have not been nominated to join the trial run. DepEd NCR Director Malcolm Garma says one condition to be nominated is the area or region must be under modified GCQ.
Tignan po natin pagdating po ng Enero sa susunod kung ano po ang magiging estado ng National Capital Region pagdating po sa community quarantine level at maaari pong doon po natin ibabatay kung handa na po ang NCR para lumahok sa gagawin pong pilot limited face-to-face.
DepEd also clarifies, though the face-to-face class will push through, it does not mean that all students will go to school. Room capacity will be adjusted from 15 to 20 students only.
Hindi po full class size at hindi rin po full week schedule ang mga bata kung hindi combined pa rin po ito sa distance learning.
Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Kaf de Maraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
Good evening, William. The United States of America has approved its first home test for coronavirus disease. Miguel Rey de Leon will tell us why.
As the U.S. coronavirus death toll passes 300,000, the Food and Drug Administration has granted emergency use authorization to the fully at-home COVID-19 antigen test. The fully at-home diagnostic test made by Australian company Ellume is available over the counter or does not need prescription and produces a result in around 20 minutes. The Ellume test uses a nasal swab test that does not go as far back as the nasopharyngeal swabs used in clinical settings and more comfortable to self-administer. It connects digitally to a smartphone app that displays the results and then helps interpret them. A company spokesman mentioned that the product will sell for around $30 and the firm plans to roll out 3 million units in January 2021 and millions more in the following months. This will be available at pharmacies and for purchase online. FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn says the emergency use authorization represents a major milestone in diagnostic testing for COVID-19. In a statement, he adds this will expand Americans' access to testing, reducing the burden on laboratories and test supplies, and giving Americans more testing options. Miguel Rey de Leon, UNTV News and Rescue, USA. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Christian businessmen face hefty jail terms in China for selling audio Bible players as Beijing intensifies its crackdown on religion. Marvy Delfin will give us the details live. Marvy?
Kat, 5 Christian businessmen have been charged with the crime of illegal business operations in 2 separate trials this month, leading to varying degrees of sentences after being arrested in July for selling audio players of the Bible. This comes as Beijing continues to clamp down on religious activities by eradicating publications deemed illegal to cement its leadership. One of the 5 entrepreneurs, Lai Jinqiang, was the sole owner of the company that grew to be the largest audio Bible player trader in the country, dealing some 40,000 units a month. Lai was tried on December 7 in a district court in China's coastal city Shenzhen, where the 2 companies were based, while the other 4 named Fu Xuanhuan, Deng Tiantiong, Han Li, and Fen Kunhao lined up before the same Shenzhen court for working at live streaming Ministry Culture Communication Company Limited, which dealt with churches and bookstores to promote the Bible through the sales of digital devices. Chinese authorities are seeking harsher penalties for the accused, with Fu being the general manager and executive director of the company. The suggested sentence was 5 years, with Deng as the company's supervisor and Feng as the technician, both 3 years with a fine, and Han as the accountant, 18 months with a fine. Both cases have been heard behind closed doors due to its sensitivity, and Chinese officials have allegedly banned the family members and lawyers of the defendants from revealing information about the cases to other people. But Sui Mu King, a Chinese human rights lawyer, said the trials were meant to stop the spread of the Bible and make people fearful. From April 2018, Chinese authorities have banned online retailers from selling copies of the Bible, and the Bible can only be legally distributed by government-approved agencies that supervise Christian churches in China. China's ruling Communist Party recognizes Buddhism, Taoism, Protestantism, and Catholicism, even as the party itself is officially atheist. Since Chinese President Xi Jinping came into his position of power, though, the government has increasingly sought to crack down on Christianity. A non-denominational mission supporting persecuted Christians in the world called Open Doors ranks China at number 23 on its list of 50 countries where it is most difficult to be a Christian. Open Doors also notes that all churches are perceived as a threat if they become too large, too politically involved, or if they invite foreign guests. Kath?
All right, Marvy, thank you for that live report. Bangkok, Thailand is now experiencing its annual smog season that usually starts in December and continues until February. Particulate matter 2.5 or PM 2.5 exceeded the government's safe threshold of 50 micrograms per cubic meter. Today in Bangkok, the PM 2.5 peaked at 98 micrograms per cubic meter. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha has ordered government agencies to take action and fight against air pollution by stopping farmers from burning trash, facilitating traffic flow, and putting vehicles spewing black smoke off the roads. People are advised to stay indoors as much as possible, and if going out, to wear a mask, avoid using private vehicles, and opt to commute to their destination. Scientists launched an urgent research mission to investigate the dangers of the world's largest iceberg headed towards South Georgia Island. Early Briones will tell us why live. Go ahead, Early.
The A68A iceberg has been floating adrift the Antarctic waters ever since it broke away from the Larsen Sea ice shelf in 2017. However, scientists and the local government have grown increasingly alarmed as the giant iceberg enters the British overseas territory and drifts towards a very important island, South Georgia. South Georgia Island sustains numerous and important marine and wildlife colonies, starting from the smallest phytoplanktons at the base of the food chain to crustaceans and mollusks to multiple species of penguins, seals, and whales. The iceberg, measuring 3,900 square kilometers in area, currently makes it the world's largest iceberg, and almost equally as big as the island it is approaching. Scientists worry that if the iceberg lodges itself on the continental shelf of the island, the ocean flora and fauna will get wiped out, effectively destroying the rest of the food chain and ultimately the island's whole biodiversity. In preparation for the impending collision, a team of scientists and researchers from the British Antarctic Survey will board the RRS James Cook ship from Falkland Island and voyage towards the iceberg on the 11th of January 2021.
We're going on a research cruise on the Royal Research Ship James Cook to South Georgia, where we are monitoring the ecosystem. And this year, of course, we have an unexpected bonus that we have a very large iceberg, A68A, which is probably going to ground near South Georgia.
In addition, two robotic submarines, also called gliders, about 1.5 meters long, will be deployed on their own for almost 4 months, measuring temperature, salinity, saltiness of the water, chlorophyll levels, and how clear the water is. Professor Geraint Tarling, a biological oceanographer at the British Antarctic Survey, stated that even though icebergs are common, the A68A iceberg is by far the biggest and poses most risk to the environment. The researchers and scientists at the British Antarctic Survey state that it is very difficult to predict the next course of the iceberg from this point. However, they are hopeful that as the giant mass of ice travels around, the minerals that it sheds can at least fertilize the ocean plankton around it, as it is a critical component of the food chain. Kat?
Thank you, Early, for that live report. And those are the reasons behind the news here in Thailand and in other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Kath Dumaraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
And those are the reasons behind the news, December 16, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.